Anybody out there this morning? Time for Sunday breakfast with the coach. I'm just waiting for people to sign in and sign up, and I'll get started with answering your questions, etc. So it's my Sunday eat day, so I just enjoyed a whole sweet potato pie with marshmallow topping. That was yummy in the tummy. So I'm all carved up and ready to go. So we'll just wait for some people to get on board, and then I'll start answering your questions. So, and maybe get to some other relevant points in terms of personal development and things like that. So, yeah, so we'll just wait for a few people to get on board. It seems like you guys are coming on board pretty quick. So we'll just wait a couple seconds. Hopefully everyone's doing all right out there today. So for the 10 or so people that are on board, we're gathering a certain audience. So if you folks aren't on my Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast yet, you might want to consider getting on there. We have some really, really heavy hitter guests coming up in the next little while that we were able to get that I'm really excited about getting on the podcast. So good morning, Tracy. Everybody else, if you're out there and you're alive and ticking and not half awake, throw me a thumbs up or something. Let me know you're out there. And so, as usual, I will get to some questions that people wrote me through the week, as well as some other things that I think merit discussion, things like that. So people are coming and going here. Anybody got a question immediately to start, or you can wait just a few seconds, and we'll get more of a bunch going, so that people aren't hearing the same questions or asking the same questions over and over again. So we're seem to be gathering a little bit of a list, so that's good. No point me being here if you guys aren't out there. So I appreciate everyone coming in early in the week, early morning on a Sunday. Early morning for some of us. For others, it's on the other side of the world, it's a whole different time of day. So, I had several things I wanted to talk about today, so I'm just waiting for you guys to get on board. And if you want to start sending me your questions, you can. Like I said, I get questions coming in through the week, so, we'll definitely be getting to them. But for me, it's all about, personal development and improvement and things like that. I mean, in the end, that's why people do all these things, right? So that becomes a very important thing. So along those lines, I thought I would... midday in England, yes. I presume it's a good 10 hours ahead of where I'm at, so that makes sense. But glad you're on board, Paul. So I thought I would start with a story that has meaning and significance for probably everybody if you just sit back and think about it. So I want to tell you one of the pivotal moments in my career. Back in 1989, okay, I'm from a fairly small town, London, Ontario, Canada. I mean, big city by Ontario standards, but in terms of worldliness, etc., pretty small place. So back in 1989, I've had quite a reputation in the bodybuilding world for myself. And, I was out there hanging and banging and training, as the saying goes. And locally, everyone knew who I was. I applied for this job at Muscle Camp that at the time was taking place every year in what we called Mecca back then, Venice Beach, California, where all the bodybuilders went to sow a dream, right? And so I applied to be a camp counselor at what we called Muscle Camp, which meant you would spend the summer there, teaching the people it was very high-end stuff. People would fly in from all over the world to be personally trained and instructed, and the top names in bodybuilding would come in and give seminars and lectures and things like that. So I applied for this position, and lo and behold, I got it. And I was the only Canadian selected out of applicants from 24 countries, all right? So it was a really big deal. But in and around my immediate environment, and this is what the story is about, back in London, Ontario, when word spread that I had got this position, I'd be flying out to spend the summer with the biggest names in bodybuilding, the rumor mill started that was all negative about me. It was all, wait till he gets down there. Guys with his physique are a dime a dozen. They're going to eat him alive. Everybody looks like him down there. Wait till he goes there and he's a big fish in a small pond here. He's going to be there and they're going to swallow him up. And all this stuff kept recurring and recurring and recurring. And that was in my head, even though at the time, I'm in my 20s, I was kind of denying it was in my head because I didn't think other people affected me. So I had all that in my head of people basically trying to say, you know, I'm not going to be a big deal down there. I'm going to fail down there. I'll come back with my tail between my legs. Well, I got to muscle camp in California. The people back home were right about one thing. Down there, they knew what the real deal was because everyone who wanted to sow a dream in physique culture, that's where you went. You went to Venice Beach, California. You went to Gold's Gym. You went to World's Gym. But they forgot that I was actually interviewed and hired to go there, and I was the only Canadian selected. And with all their bullcrap yakking in the background, I had forgot that too. And what had happened was I get down there in 1989, and they meet me at the airport. And within days, the total opposite thing of what my local peanut gallery predicted was happening. Because they knew the real deal when they saw it, I got the red carpet treatment everywhere I went. All of a sudden, you know, I was the go-to guy. Top pros were coming to me to ask me questions. I was asked to finish lectures. I got to people who were well respected in the industry. Joe Gold, the founder of Gold's Gym and World Gym, took a shining to me. That's where Bill Pearl initially met me and announced to everybody there that I was going to make a big splash in the fitness world, which is something he even had said then that he never did before. So the lesson I want to impart here is I left that experience knowing that the local peanut gallery isn't the whole world. They had infected my mind, telling me, of course, a bunch of negatives. And when I went down there and I got to California around the people who made the whole industry tick, I got nothing but respect and accolades back to me. And almost immediately it let me know the peanut gallery in my head shrunk. From that point on, I knew that people around me who didn't even know me, may not even understand the situation they think they understand, no longer had any impact on me. I had been around the best, and the best chose me. So from that point on, all what I call the peanut gallery quackery, all the wah, wah, wah in the background, never affected me again. And I realized how aiming to prove something to very, very small-minded, negative people isn't a way to live. And you can experience that same thing yourself, whether it's in your gym, whether it's in your office you work in. Remember, that world of influence is very, very tiny. It's not the whole world, and you shouldn't be trying to prove anything to them. You should be setting your own standards high and then act naturally to meet them and then do something with that. So one of the biggest lessons I got from that experience was that oftentimes people who talk the most, especially the ones who talk negative, usually have the least to say and know the least about what they're talking about. So I call that group the peanut gallery, right? And we call them now in the modern social media culture, you know, we call them trolls, right? So you can't let people like that infiltrate your mind, right? They're infecting you with negativity, and you're not going to get very far if you're trying to prove yourself to that ilk. Because the one thing about that ilk is it's the most common ilk, right? And like I say, you can't soar like an eagle if you're flocking with turkeys. So keep that in mind, folks. And that was just something I wanted to start with while we were gathering a group, because that experience for me in California changed my life and the trajectory of my life. But it also made me realize there's a reason people live in small ponds, right? They're afraid of the big oceans. So that's just a little lesson. Hopefully it's valuable to you. And yeah, so the questions are coming in, and we'll get on with it. Hey, Coach, I have a problem in my chest. I have one side bigger than the other. That's pretty common. And I have problems in developing my chest comparing to other muscles. That's very common. We call that an innervation issue. It means that the muscles surrounding your chest probably innervate easier, so they're taking most of the overload, and the chest is more stubborn in terms of innervation, so you're getting that problem. Being one side dominant isn't uncommon either. That usually tells me that you don't have a whole lot of years under your belt training. That's what we call bilateral deficit. It tends to correct itself after a few years of training, if your training is properly programmed. If you're just going to the gym to work out and you're not following any kind of sound training program, then you're just delaying your progress. So having muscle body parts that are more responsive than other ones, some that are stubborn, some that respond easily, that's very, very normal, especially in the early years of training. What you don't want to do is isolate, okay? You don't want to try to isolate those effects. So, I'm weaker on my left side, so I'll train my left side harder and things like that. Don't do that, all right? Just give it time. People don't understand the three sequences of time in this industry is the immediate, the residual, and the cumulative. Everyone wants to focus on the immediate, but the actual results speak to the cumulative, right? So you gotta give it time, and that's very important as well. Tracy Lynn, question on refeeding. You hear mostly of carb refeeds on your cycle diet. Okay, it's pretty much anything you want. Why would the refeed of others include a low-fat, high-carb day aside from... Hang on a second, I've got to read the rest. Well, part of the cycle diet is to eat what you want on refeed days, to get away from the overcomplication of number crunching and concerns, and realize that metabolism has its own agenda as well. So as long as you're overfeeding, especially with components that are protein sparing, so fat and carbohydrates in any form, then you're probably doing okay. And if you're experiencing GI upsets from your refeed days, then you're just you got to choose better foods for yourself until your body gets more acclimated to eating more rounded foodstuffs again. I mean, one of the things we said in the cycle diet is if you're dieting the same way all the time, you weaken digestive enzymes, so that when you eat anything outside that diet, you end up experiencing some bloating, distension, cramping, things like that, gas. But that's just a sign that you're not really feeding your digestive tract in a way that keeps it strong and robust. So one of the ways the cycle diet exercises that is by saying on refeed days, eat anything and everything. And that exercises, if you want to say, the muscles of the gut. And that'll make it stronger, and you'll be less prone to things like bloating and distension and things like that. So that's very, very important as well. So good question there, Tracy. Yeah, the refeeds are very popular questions, and for good reason. Sometimes on the cycle diet, it can take several weeks to several months to sort of get it down right, and to learn what foods not to start with, and what foods you can get away from and get away with at the beginning. So that's important as well. So yeah, very, very, very important stuff there. So that's a good question as well. But you also have to consider how sound the diet is in general and things like that. So another thing that came, is there any questions coming in? Let me see here. Yeah. Another thing came across my desk today was to ask me to comment on another fly-by-night supplement company. Maybe not fly-by-night because it's been around for a while, but it's been touted by Dr. Oz, which, big wow. I mean, for me, if Dr. Oz is touting something, it's almost for sure quackery. I call Dr. Oz the Wizard of Nonsense, because he's just a shill for bull crap. That's what keeps him on the air, because he caters to people's wish bias in all kinds of ways, right? He wants to tell you what you want to hear. Anyway, this thing, I think it was called Trim Spa or whatever, came across my desk, and would I comment on it? Another, insert eye roll here. So I did a few quick real research on these things. The company doesn't even have its own website, which is a flag sign right there. It just sends things out for people to sell. And I'll show you some of the gimmicks by which they sell this bogus fat-burning stuff that'll change your life and all this other stuff. One of the websites that was marketing it said this, amongst its marketing crap, it said, and of course it works better the longer you take it. See, that is a deliberate thing. That's not directional. It's not instructional. That's marketing, because they want your wish bias to click in and saying, oh, it's not working because I haven't been taking it long enough. So you'll keep buying it. You'll keep buying more of this crap that doesn't work. It also says, along with most diet supplements that don't offer anything, it also says that, of course, it works better in a solid exercise and diet program. And what happens there is it's the consistency of the exercise and diet program that's giving you the results. This placebo pill you're taking that promises you fat loss isn't doing anything except making your wallet lighter. So those kind of things are marketing scams, marketing tactics. And then one of the other ones, on another website that was touting this nonsense, said, well, of course it uses 2 key ingredients that are proven beneficial for fat loss: raspberry ketones and green coffee extract. And before you all go Googling those 2 things, actually the research says the exact opposite. That green coffee extract and raspberry ketones have no effect on body composition at all. But on the website they said actually includes 2 ingredients that have been studied to show effects on fat burning. Notice the way they chose the words. 2 key ingredients that have been studied to show effects on fat loss. So if you're just looking for something to cater to your ego and your wish bias, you buy there. You don't start doing searches on PubMed and the rest of it to get to the bottom of whether that's true. That statement was a flat-out lie. So here we go again. By making that suggestion, planting that notion in your mind that these things lead to fat loss, you're more likely to buy the product because they're after the impulse buy, right? That's what they want. Furthermore, back in my day, hang on with the, I'll get to your questions, folks. Back in my day when I was an endorsed athlete and endorsed by several supplement companies, one of the most popular fat burners on the planet at the time was with the company I endorsed, and I had the background information on that. So not only did my clients who were used in before and after transformations not take the product, they went by my diet and training to produce their transformation. But here's the thing. In some 1 year, these articles kept coming out supporting why you should take this fat burner, saying that clinically proven fat loss. What they didn't tell you, and what the supplement industry doesn't tell you, in that year, this company, this company paid for 9 different studies, to show the effectiveness of their fat-burning product. 8 of them came back saying it doesn't do anything, all right? 1 came back saying it may or may not have an influence on fat loss. Well, here's the thing. In the supplement world, they're not obligated to tell you, the consumer, about the 8 studies that didn't show any effect. They're not obligated to tell you, hey, we petitioned 9 studies and 8 of them came back as this stuff's no good. They're not obligated to tell you that. So if they pay for 10 studies and even 1 of them shows promise, that's what you're going to see in the magazines over and over again. That's clinically proven, right? So it's already stilted on the side of being nothing more than a placebo effect, and you have to understand the way these things work. So a lot of people going out there buying a lot of bogus products with their wish bias, but the experience is no perks without the works. So if you're not going to do the work, these things aren't going to do much for you at all. So, all right, let's look at some questions. Hopefully that helped. If you guys were interested in any of that topic, throw your thumbs across the screen. I don't want to be wasting your time or mine if I'm talking about stuff you're not interested in. So, yeah, if you find Trim Spa coming into your inbox or social media pages, just tell them Scott Abel said it's nonsense. And I don't have any problem standing beside that, so that's fine with me. Jenny Lee asks, the struggle with cravings and want to lose weight. All right. It seems like the diet mentality has led to a vicious circle, and I wonder how to stop that but still make progress. It seems that the more you diet, the worse it gets. It's a mental thing. Of course it's a mental thing. So don't look for nutritional answers to a mental problem, right? quality of mindset produces quality of behavior. And when it comes to cravings, what we have to do is find the path of acceptance, not resistance. People are treating craving as some unnatural event in their mind. When you live in the world of food abundance, cravings are going to be even more consistent, right? So it's not about, I have cravings, this is unnatural, what am I going to do? Oh no. It's about accepting cravings and acknowledging this too shall pass. If you have a craving, right, it's going to pass, okay? So these things are hardwired into our brain to appetite and hunger and need for sex, things like that, have a hard wiring. So they're going to pop up here and there. How we deal with it is the difference between success and failure, and you have to realize that it's not only a mental thing, Jenny Lee, it's an emotional thing, right? What we call emotional residue. What are you hungering for? Most of the time, people that cave into cravings or even translate something to be a craving actually is an emotional hunger that they need satiated, not a nutritional or metabolic hunger, right? So in other words, they need to find a way to cope, okay? So that's, a coping strategy. So what I need instead of food is a better way to cope with whatever the situation is, boredom, loneliness, whatever those triggers happen to be. Anxiety, those are the common ones, right? So, but that's going to require coaching, because for those kind of things, if you can't get outside your own mind, that's why you're saying the more you diet, the worse it gets, because it's not a diet solution. So, the definition of insanity is to keep repeating the same behavior, expecting a different result. You're not going to diet your way out of a situation you dieted your way into. So that's, you've got to change the level of stinking thinking, all right? And we got to get more what I call emotional fitness. So we're looking to have an upcoming course on that. I've been dealing with ladies with food issues for decades now. I've written books about it that are hidden on my website, and we're going to turn those into a course at some point. I'm just got too much other things on my plate, but we're going to turn that into something. So hopefully that helps you. And I've been handing out exercises here and there, journaling exercises, Jenny, on some of these breakfast shows with the coach to get people to do various exercises. So, and journaling exercises. Journaling is a good way to communicate with yourself without the roadblocks and the clutter. And the more you journal, the more clarity you get. So one of the first ever questions and sort of the ABC journaling questions that people should ask is, shouldn't I know who I am by now? And then answer that question, like, who am I? Who am I being? And then look at that without listing the roles that you play. Who are you if you don't include the roles that you play? Who are you if you're not a mother, sister, secretary, whatever? A lot of people can't answer that question very well. So the deeper you can answer that question, the less maladaptive coping issues you tend to use in your life. You tend to deal with life more effectively when you know who you really are. So that's an important thing as well. It doesn't always help. It doesn't always solve the issue, but it really, really helps. Those things look good. Hey, Scott Monday, haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you here. What are the worst exercises that raise cortisol? Forget all that, Stephen. That's all industry mumbo-jumbo of people trying to sound more intelligent than they actually are. Good forms of exercise are good for insulin sensitivity, leptin sensitivity. Exercise does all good things. Unless your trainer or someone is training you into the ground, the raising cortisol is more about intensity levels than it is about the actual exercise themselves. So let's not, it's already bad enough that we demonize food groups. Let's not start demonizing exercises too. There's a lot of exercises that certain age groups and certain demographics shouldn't be doing, like I outlined in my book, Physique After 50. People shouldn't be doing any jarring motions with their shoulders, so battling ropes for people in my age group is a no-no, like kipping chin-ups and things like that, and muscle-ups are definite no-nos, but not because of cortisol and things like that. That's just, again, the personal trainer trying to play doctor, which has been a bugaboo of mine in this industry for decades. You got people with virtually no education at all wanting to play doctor in the gym. and sound like they know more than the medical profession knows. People who will actually push things like this trim spa nonsense, or, you know, watch this exercise because it'll produce cortisol, but this one over here is, you know, going to enhance growth hormone and testosterone. That's not how the body works. All these exercises and exercise in general have biochemical and hormonal effects together, not separate from. So a lot of that stuff is just basic mumbo-jumbo nonsense. So Scott asked the question, any experience with clients choosing vegan diet choices? And if you found it affected their training or results? Sure. I mean, I've had a lot of clients over the years switch to veganism. Some just switch to vegetarianism. It's sad out there that people don't recognize the difference, that there's various forms of vegetarianism. Veganism is sort of the more absolute form. Yeah, there are some consequences to pay for going totally vegan. For some people, if they do it for moral reasons, they tend to stay more healthy. The people who are doing it for body image reasons, they tend to be less healthy. And that's all in that book I told you about, folks, Modern Nutrition in Health and Disease. There's a whole thing outlined there. So we see again that quality of mindset determines quality of behavior. Now, in terms of physique development and physique transformation, I don't think there's much of a question that some animal protein has the body looking more svelte and lean rather than skinny fat and things like that. I think that's just the way it is. That doesn't mean you need a lot of animal protein, but if that's something that is important, then yeah, there's going to be a sacrifice there as well. And veganism is, as long as someone's eating healthy whole foods, it's really not that difficult to meet your nutritional needs, as long as at the same time you're going vegan, you're not demonizing whole food groups. So I get people writing me, oh, I'm a vegan, and oh, I'm also fructose resistant. That's the newest one now. You can't just be carb resistant anymore and gluten resistant. Now you got to be fructose resistant. It's just insanity out there. When you start doing that and you start thinking about your food choices only in negatives and limitations, you're not thinking in terms of good health. You're thinking in terms of ill health. And again, quality of mindset is going to determine quality of behavior. So that's very important as well. Green tea and green coffee does not aid in fat burning, folks. The level of that stuff you would have to put in your bloodstream would be like drinking 50 cups of the stuff per day, every day for weeks and weeks. So, you know, this is one of those things where a study shows that on a biochemical level, this biochemical exchange may happen, and then marketers come in and go, oh, well, that could lead to fat loss. And, you know, it may lead to fat loss. It also may not. All right? So, again, there's no way around the long-term approach of being a grinder. Being a grinder is falling in love with the process and falling in love to do what it takes to get what you want. All right, there's no lottery tickets in physique transformation, and that's all supplements are, folks. Supplements are the lottery tickets for physique transformation wishers. All right, I think I'll turn that into a quote card. That was damn good. So keep that in mind. You know what I always tell people? Save the money you're spending on supplements, walking around with the deer eyes and the GNC, wondering if you should pick this up and pick that up. Save that money and hire a real coach, someone who actually knows his stuff. And get guidance from there, where you can let all that other stuff go and wondering if you're doing it right. Time is money too. So it's funny, people will write into me and say, well, I can't really afford your coaching. And it's like, well, can you afford to have the same goal next year, January 1st, as you had this year? How much money is that spent to be right where you were a year later? I don't understand that mentality of people. So anyway, that's that rant. Thoughts on something to eat before bed? I generally make a protein shake. See, those questions of what should I do, what should me, like someone's writing in what should they do, without an assessment, all I can do is speak in generalities. The way you get individualized stuff is when someone actually does an assessment and looks at your whole, what are the lifestyle factors, what time of days do you eat, how stressful or labor intensive is your work. Then someone can start predicting, like, okay, your last meal of the day maybe would be better off to be this. But to make general blanket statements like, oh, well, you should do this, if you log into any of these shows and someone gives you answers like that, they don't know what they're talking about. So there's way too much of that one-size-fits-all mantra. Sometimes I'll try to, I'll give you generalities that fit the general the modality in terms of an answer, but really the specifics, when you're asking the question with an eye on it, that requires assessment, right? So so that's very important. And yeah, I mean, protein shakes, never been a big fan, folks. You'll look in the industry and you see engineered food. That's just another word for processed food. Let's get real. So food that's made in a factory, to my mind, isn't food. So you want to go on and on about meal replacement bars and Cliff bars are so healthy. And no, they're not. So you know what's healthy? Healthy whole foods. You know what's healthy? Roasted, unsalted whole nuts. That's healthy. Okay. Don't tell me that some protein bar that's called white chocolate, blah blah blah, is a health bar. It's trying to convince you of two incompatible things. Oh, you can use the words white chocolate in conjunction with the word healthy and nutritious. No, you can't. So let's get real. I mean, part of the job I do is to get people to get real about getting real. So, I mean, that's part of it too. So, it's very, very important, folks, that you stop responding to marketing, okay? As a matter of fact, the other day when someone wrote me and said, will you talk about Trim Spa? And I said, I've never heard of it. They said, well, Dr. Oz just endorsed it. I rolled my eyes. I said, well, all right, send me a link or two to what this crap is. And sure enough, it's just crap. So, but Dr. Oz wouldn't be allowed to say it if it was crap. Yes, he would. That's how industry works, folks. I'm sure he's getting a nice, healthy stipend for having these morons on his show and promoting nonsense. That's why I call him the Wizard of Nonsense. Right? The sooner he gets off the air, the better. I think one of the biggest mistakes Oprah ever made was to turn that guy into a guru. But that's an argument for another time. Speaking of cortisol, what do I think about adaptogenic herbs? Herbs are herbs. If they build up in your bloodstream over a period of time because you use them every single day, then they might have some benefits for sure. But they're not going to... These things aren't deal makers, folks, and deal breakers. Here's the problem in the industry, all right, with the wannabes, all right? They try to make what's incidental instrumental. And they fail to see that what's instrumental, and they treat it as incidental. All right? And that's the problem. The things that are really going to affect physique transformation, like regular meal times, good sleep hygiene, quality and quantity of sleep, all your trainers out there, nah, that's too simple for me to lecture my clients about. But I'll talk to them about adaptogenic herbs because that'll make me sound really, really smart. But no, you're actually really, really dumb because you're falling for the truth of something being that knowledge is knowing, more and more about less and less. So you start looking at everything through a microscope. You're better off looking at everything through a telescope. You see more. Okay, so so those things, there's healthy herbs and spices, but they're not game changers. Okay, that's the thing. My biggest challenge when I was in my 50s. Hey, I'm still in my 50s. Damn it. Is that directed at me, Richard? I'm not sure if there was a question there. So I wrote the book Physique After 50 and the follow-up book to that, The Aging Proposition. At one time they were both 1 and 2 on Amazon. Very proud of that. And actually a couple big name industry guys just bought both of those books and they ended up on my podcast. So I'm very happy about that too. So Tanya's asking... And Richard, just get back to me about your question. I'm not sure if you were asking something specific there. I'd be more than happy to answer. So, Tanya's asking, what about pre and post supplements? Oh boy, listen, Tanya. And when I say oh boy, it's not directed at you. It's directed at the successful marketing to make people think that these things matter, folks. Unless you're earning a living off of your body, meaning you're training at maximum work capacity several times a week for several years at a time, these things do not apply at all. The whole pre and post workout thing and peri thing, first of all, it started with endurance athletes. So unless you were training longer than 90 minutes at a time, no difference. Then it started with intensity levels of things like football players and stuff needing electrolyte replacement because they were doing 2-a-day practices in 100 degree heat. Unless you're doing that, no difference. So what the industry likes to do to sustain itself is look at something that applies to a very tiny, narrow demographic, like high-intensity, world-class athletes, and then say, see, they do this and you should too. And that is actually one of the biggest myths out there. What we know is that balanced calories, meal times throughout the day is the best way of doing things. There was a study, it's in one of my podcasts, Mike can find it, I'm sure, that showed all this pre, peri, and post stuff talking about optimizing growth hormone, testosterone, actually had nothing to do with physique development at all. They studied it. This is like recent, like last year, I think. We posted in one of the, I read it, we did a whole podcast on it. They said what really affects, physique transformation had nothing to do with those things. It had everything to do with optimum fiber recruitment during your workout, which is something my whole Able Approach book talks about, right? Innervation training is all about ranges and planes of motion that affect fiber recruitment differentially. And that study showed that. So, the whole pre and post workout stuff is nonsense unless you're following some kind of low carb nonsense, which is also something I think is extreme and unnecessary. And if you think, folks, the answer to your physique transformation or weight loss issues is that you're not extreme enough, you're never going to get there. Because really, the issue is you're not simplifying enough. It's funny, I had a client here yesterday, and maybe I'll post pictures of him later. His 4-week transformation was pretty spectacular, and then suddenly everyone where he works was seeing him, like, seasons are changing, so they've seen him in a tank top and shirtless and things like that, and wow, how many calories are you eating? How many grams of carbs? I don't know, I don't count calories, and my coach doesn't count carbs. I'm just following what he gave me. Don't you want that kind of freedom in your life and still have that kind of physique transformation? I mean, that's the way I work. You can have the kind of trainer who wants to walk around in a lab coat and a calculator and impress you with his formulas for nonsense, but we call that the illusion of control, okay? And usually you're going to get tired at some point. You're going to have a psychological rebellion against number crunching your way to fitness, all right? And you're eventually going to react against it and say, I can't do this anymore. And when you do that, all kinds of metabolic hell breaks loose. So it's no way to live. So eat whole foods, don't bother with pre and post supplements too. Correct. Tanya, just I think you're drawing a conclusion there. To eat whole unprocessed foods and don't bother with pre and post supplement. Yeah, just make sure your meals are balanced and make sense. So hopefully I answered your question. So Rick, okay, yeah. I'm not a young 50. I'm 55. I'll be 56 this year. So was maintaining a tight core for me more difficult? Wow, what a great question. Actually, no. You'll find that research is kind of coming backwards now. It used to be bodybuilders were missing this, and this, and this, so we needed functional this and corrective that, and like anything in the industry, what becomes new becomes really, really overdone until we start studying it and realize it maybe should be underdone or undone completely, like foam rollers. Foam rollers came out, everyone on that bandwagon. Now almost every expert in the industry says foam rollers better off without them, right? So this is the problem, that science takes time to catch up, and it's time to research something, right? As the old saying goes, a lie can go around the world before the truth is even tied its shoes. So that's how this industry, it operates, okay? It operates on that. So maintaining a tight core, no, I don't even do ab work anymore, but I do complexes with body parts, like my hard gainer solution. Even my current programs are based around that. If you have the hard gainer solution, then you see it's composed of a triplex and a biplex, and that stability and my overall GPP, general preparation phase warm up, keeps me pretty healthy and robust in that area. Now you keep in mind too, Richard, you may not know a lot about me, but back in 2000, I had 2 discs removed from my back, and the damage was so extent they couldn't like replace them or fuse them or anything. They just had to suck what was left of the disc that had chipped off and attached to the nerve root of my leg. So they had to actually suck that out like a vacuum cleaner. It was called a double laminectomy. And here I am, still hanging and banging. So there's always a way around things. Expertise goes a long way to helping with that. So Yeah, no, I mean, and a tight core, I think you mean by tight, I think you're referring cosmetically speaking, like why I, still have abs at age 55, maybe that kind of thing. That also has a lot to do with my cycle diet, right? Staying in shape. So, I've been following the cycle diet now for decades. And it's nice. I call it the freedom diet because you're not counting anything, you're not stressing over anything, and at the end of every week, you're looking for that free day off. For it, like I said, for breakfast, I had a whole sweet potato pie with marshmallow topping, and that was great. So you always have that sort of you're not telling yourself I'm never going to eat highly palpable, hyper palatable foods anymore. No, you're going to enjoy them and anticipate them and look forward to them. So hopefully I answered your question there, Richard. If you don't have my book, Physique After 50, just scottablepfitness.com, and you'll find it there. And I think there's some workouts that come with that. If I'm not correct, my business manager takes care of that part of things. But and then the follow-up book to that is The Aging Proposition. And it's more about aging well mentally as well. So here's the thing, Richard. As we get over 50, no doubt about it, we find limitations in ourselves, okay? There's going to be, and I explain all that in the book, Sarcopenia, physical limitations. But here's the thing. Find the possibilities within the limitations. That's what I did. I got more and more limited, osteoarthritis in my shoulders, my back issue is something I have to look at. But I never looked at my limitations as something to hide behind, okay? I looked at find the possibilities within the limitations, and what that allowed me to do was come up with another book, Physique After 50. What to do, what not to do, why, why it's more about preventative stuff for your joints, things like that. So hopefully that helped. But there's definitely going to be limitations as we get older. Anyone who thinks there isn't is living some kind of Superman fantasy, and that S on their chest should be for stupid. Okay. All right. Another question. Okay, Miko's saying he stopped using the pre, intra, post-workout products and replaced them with real food, and the only thing he's noticed is he sleeps a whole lot better. Yeah, I mean, that's just, and he doesn't use pre-workout powders or anything. Yeah, I mean, I get people off their supplements. I get people writing me who have just heard of me or whatever, and they write me, and they're like $300, $400, $500 into supplements per month, and I'm like, I didn't even know you could spend that much on supplements, let alone why you would. And I get them all off all that, and they're so worried about it, and yet they can't believe that there's no difference. And if there is a difference, it's for the positive. So yeah, it's amazing what we need to unlearn rather than what we need to learn in this industry by buying into nonsense. So another question, is the cycle diet based on having low calories during the week? Yeah, it is. It's based on being in a relative calorie deficit. The book and the course, there's a course on the cycle diet, Tanya. I don't know how much you know about me, but it's the cycle.diet, the cycle.diet. If you go there, you can get the book or the course or both. And it explains the difference between a relative calorie deficit and an absolute calorie deficit and why you want to stay in one. And I even use the example in the book of professional competitive eaters, okay, who go into eating contests and who stay lean all year long as proof of the cycle diet's positive effects on creating an optimized and robust metabolism. You have people like the Black Widow, a female Asian lady, about 90 pounds, who, her eating feats are incredible, right? Like 9 pounds of cheesecake in 10 minutes, and I don't forget how many hot dogs she ate, like 26 or something like that. Or someone like Matt Stoney, whose videos are hilarious. So he once did a whole drum of mass gainer at one meal, a whole drum. He didn't suddenly sprout muscles, mass. That was pretty funny. Stuff like that. But I go in and explain why people can eat. People say, "Oh, well, wow, it must be nice to have that metabolism, and they can eat like that." No, it's because they eat like that, they have that metabolism. So only chronic dieting represses and depresses your metabolism, and people just can't get that through yet. So, oh, Richard, you don't have the book yet. So, okay, well, hopefully you get the book soon. So, yeah, a lot of supportive comments here about people who stopped taking supplements and didn't notice a difference. So, very, very good. Hopefully, if those stories are coming through to you. Now, let me just read from one of my previous courses that I taught online, folks. one of my workshops, okay? So in the world of self-improvement, especially this industry, failure, not success, is the default position. In other words, the people who are financially invested in this industry need to count on you failing your physique or weight loss goals. If you succeed, you're no longer a consumer for them. They can't sell you anything. So there's 6 major reasons people abandon your quest for change or for transformation, right? 1, it takes longer than you think it should. That's on you, because that means you got stinking thinking. You're not dealing with reality, okay? Number 2, like for instance, we just interviewed Dan John for the Smarter Sculpted Physique. We were talking about CrossFit, and he was talking about people going into CrossFit and, you know, taking a week to learn the Olympic lifts. And Dan John made the point saying it took him 19 years to learn how to do a barbell snatch, okay? But somehow you can go to a CrossFit box gym and you know how to do that within a week. So nonsense like that. So number 1, the reasons people fail or stop their transformation goals. It takes longer than you expect. It demands more sacrifice than you expect. Other distractions take priority. People in the real world have jobs, kids, obligations. There's other unexpected outcomes. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I have cravings. Yeah. You celebrate the little stuff too much and too soon. How often do people who have written me, oh, I stepped on the scale, I lost 3 pounds this week, so I took a cheat day. Wrong. All right. And then number 6, the reality of permanent consistency is too intimidating for your mind. Oh, am I going to have to eat like this forever? Yeah, you're going to have to eat like this forever. If fitness isn't a lifestyle, then your transformation is not sustainable. So that's the 6 things that keep you from change. Let me read them again. It takes longer than expected. It demands more sacrifice than expected. So again, expectations aren't realistic. That's something where a coach comes in. Other distractions take priority. You have unexpected other outcomes. You celebrate the little stuff way too much and way too soon. And the reality of permanent consistency is intimidating. So that's 6 reasons why people fail, and none of it has anything to do with cortisol or pre- and post-workout supplementation. You see how the industry wants to bog you down in the details? Well, the devil is in the details, folks. The more grand scheme is simplicity. How can I get this client of mine with a busy life, a real life, and obligations? How can I simplify things for them so that this is sustainable for them long term? That's what the good coach does. All right? The wannabe is going to try to dazzle you with nonsense. All right? Dazzle you with cortisol and growth hormone and, windows of opportunity and, green tea extract and the rest of this nonsense that is incidental, not instrumental to you getting what you want. So one of my very first interviews speaks to these 6 points that I just read to you. I was being interviewed by someone who was known in the industry, but someone I really didn't have a whole lot of respect for because it was someone who talked the talk but didn't walk the walk. And the question was, well, how did I get there? Like, how did I make it to California? And why did Bill Pearl, take me as a mentor when there's hundreds and hundreds of other people out there? Like, why me? And I answered simply, and the answer is true to this day, is I was always realistic about what it was going to take. All right? My expectations were always in line that if I wanted this, then nothing else was going to be able to be a priority over it. So, yeah, here I was getting my master's degree, but also winning bodybuilding contests at the same time. There was never an excuse to not be doing what I needed to be doing to climb the mountain that I wanted to climb. So, too many other people think they can get there, with the path of least resistance, okay? So I'm going to travel a road that other people already paved. Well, good luck with that. As you can see, this whole industry works on gimmickry, all right? They work about formulating gimmicks, formulating formulas, taking something that might fit 10% of the population and telling the other 90% that it's good for them too, and then getting you to think that there's ways around, being part of the grind. That we can take trim spa, or we can fast a day a week, or I don't know if the nonsense of isogenic cleanses is still out there, but shoot me if it is. Just stuff like that, So as W.C. Fields used to say, a fool and his money are soon parted. So, you have to accept that if you're not going to develop a lifestyle that's health promoting and fitness promoting, then you're not going to sustain any kind of physical transformation that you may have. That's why I say, don't talk to me about 12-week transformations. Talk to me when you've done a 12-month transformation. Then I'm all ears. All right. So unless you're a client of mine who, consistently, does it regularly, like sharpens up and things like that. And you've all seen Andy now on our Thursday show, and now everyone knows he looks like that all year round with the cycle diet and things like that. And he'll be the first to tell you there's no magic pre and post meals there. There's no trim spa in his water, and there's no days of fasting and cleansing and all the rest that comes with this industry's noise. And that's what I call it, basically, is noise. So it seems to be the same people asking questions. Is there anybody out there? Anybody else out there got any questions? So, I don't want to, let's see what time it is. So it's still too early to sign off. So, we still got people out there. You got any questions, folks? Training, diet, or am I just slamming people too hard? You're afraid to ask me anything. That might be important too. So, sorry, that's just my nature, folks. Sure, good question, Sarah. Can I talk about my experience training, exercise, and metabolism in women in menopause? Yeah. Wow. Oftentimes it's a crapshoot because a lot of the things take place on very individual levels. So what will work for one person won't work for another person. Again, you got to speak in generalities first. What is that person's background in terms of activity, exercise, diet, things like that? What are they coming to me in menopause overweight and have always struggled with weight and now it's worse, or were they formerly practicing good health habits and then menopause kicked in and sort of all kinds of hormonal chaos took place? I'm a big believer in hormone replacement therapy. I think any women over 45 should see an endocrinologist or an internal medicine specialist, and any man over 50. Remember that our ancestors didn't live past their 30s and 40s, so to live into our 50s and things like that was very, very unnatural. And there's a dysregulation that happens biochemically and hormonally that creates differences in metabolism and function, and we have all these sudden limitations. But we also have medical answers for that and medical intervention. There's no reason that we should just get old. As I talk about in my book, The Aging Proposition, I say screw the term golden years and let's have a platinum club. Platinum club membership is accepting age, but accepting it with grace and humility and all the possibilities that come with it. One of those possibilities is trading in a lot of physical abilities for the wisdom that comes with aging and experiencing life. So I've dealt with a lot of women with menopause. The ones I've seen the best results for, and I'm not talking about fat loss. I'm talking about what good is fat loss if you're still miserable? I don't get that women can't make that equation in their head. Well, I'd take the fat loss and be miserable. Actually, no, you won't. If you've gone through that, I've had clients that have gone through that, they think the fat loss is going to solve their misery and anxiety, and it doesn't. So again, it's about changing the mindset. But one of the things I felt that worked there, the women who tended to get on testosterone therapy, along with their other hormonal replacement therapy, seemed to just, once that kicked in, really sort of had an uptake in what I call vitality or vital energy. Just getting up in the morning and feeling like they did when they were young and youthful and things like that. So a lot of the times it's medical intervention, Sarah. It's along with a healthy whole foods diet and things like that. Don't start buying into stuff like low carbs and keto and just because you're menopausal. Drastic undertakings tend to have drastic consequences, so let's keep that in mind as well. So so there's just a lot of people doing, checks on that. Like, yes, hormone replacement therapy really helped me. So, and see, again, someone just wrote in they're in better shape in their 50s than they were in their 30s and 40s. And you're going to get some of that, but you're not going to get maybe a lot of that. It depends on what someone's background was. If in the 30s and 40s or 20s and 30s they were partying and they weren't really paying attention to exercise and stuff, then of course if they transition to a fitness lifestyle, they're going to look and feel better in their 50s than their 30s and 40s. But if you take someone coming out of the 30s and 40s who are already living a healthy lifestyle, then you're going to notice some cosmetic consequences for that. So here you go, you see the variation in that. I mean, I would say I feel different than I felt in my 30s and 40s, but I was also 260 pounds at 10% body fat bodybuilder, right? And I was a walking plate head, and that served its purpose for the time. I wouldn't want to be that now. I'm way, way happier with how I am now, wrinkles and all. So parts of me look like a Shar-Pei dog when I wave, That's from where muscle used to be. And I'm good with that. I'm happy with that because I wore that t-shirt and that hat and I traveled the world for the way my physique looked. And I walked the talk for decades. So now I want to, the goal for me is if this isn't connected to wellness and personal growth and feeling good about yourself, then you're missing the point. So that's the very, hopefully that doesn't fall on deaf ears. Tracy just said, I'll take sanity any day of the week. And that's a good point because how many competitors and other people in this industry have come to me with $1 million bodies and 5-cent heads because they're whacked out, all right? And the old expression that I used to, I always tell people, what is the fitness lifestyle doing for my life? What is the fitness lifestyle doing to my life? And mastery is when you own and control that thing you do. Obsession is when that thing you do owns and controls you. And I've used that several times. So there's a lot of people in their 20s and 30s doing these bikini contests and figure contests and getting online for please validate pictures of my butt, please hit like and please love me. They're not going to be in a very good state 5 or 6, 7, 8 years down the road. Trust me, I've seen it and I've had to deal with it. So people who were getting a lot of attention and making a lot of noise with their bodies, when they start having to live from their souls and their minds, they invite depression and things like that because they never worked on those elements of themselves. So that's a good point. That was a good point that Tracy made there. So if someone's hypothyroid and you're on medication, replacement medication for life, there's no problem with that. There's no thyroid replacement therapy if the doses are adjusted to where you're functioning well. There's no symptomology of side effects that would necessitate trying to wean off that. So there's nothing wrong with that. I take Celebrex for my arthritis. I don't have any plans on coming off that because it's a drug. We got this misinformation in North America that somehow the supplement industry is all on the up and up, and the medical industry is something that conspires against us and we should worry about. So if we're taking any kind of medication, there's going to be all these side effects that if we can get off them, then, I have people in severe anxiety and depression who won't take medication, but they'll go out and buy St. John's wort. I mean, that makes no sense to me at all. If you have a medical issue, get treated medically and be thankful that you can, because before our time, and our ancestors died from stuff that we can control with medication now. And let's not just live longer, let's live better while we live longer. So that's why I advocate hormone replacement therapy. Why just live to be 80? I mean, I don't just want to be living when I'm 80, sitting in my chair. I want to be living when I'm 80. I want to be doing what I'm doing now. I want to be hanging and banging. I want to be contributing. I want to be having a platinum club membership, not golden years. So this is the kind of stuff, you have to think with. And if medical intervention helps me to do that, I know medical intervention certainly helped my father to live to be 87. It was his lifestyle that kept him, limited in ways that were, unhealthy and non-productive in terms of having a quality of life experience. So, there's medical intervention, folks. We're underestimating it in North America. We tend to see it as some kind of weird conspiracy, and it's not. These are the people who are, tried and true professionals who are actually trying to help people. So if feeling sleepy in between meals and energized right after eating, does it mean I'm in an absolute calorie deficit 2 days after cheat day? Um, Mattis, that can mean a lot of things, actually. If you're sleepy in between meals, that can depend on time of day and your own sort of natural rhythms. I mean, I've talked about this before. There's a reason that many Latin American countries used to practice siesta, that they noticed as a culture that energy dip during the day, so they would just shut down, and part of it to enjoy the day a little more, part of it to like snooze and relax, and then reboot and recharge. But we don't tend to reboot and recharge in this culture. We tend to go until we're exhausted, and then we wonder why we're exhausted. So sometimes you have to take a pause, the pause that refreshes, right? It could mean absolute deficit, but it could mean a lot of other things. But if you're generally, your energy's back after you eat, you're probably okay. Again, it's one of those things that I can only speak to in generalities. It's hard to, it's hard to make an individual, directive there with a lack of information. So that's very important as well. So I don't know what you're saying. Me too, to Michelle. Me too. Along with the hard gainer solution. I don't know what the Me Too was for, but okay, just people talking about thyroid meds and stuff. Yeah, I see no reason to wean oneself off them, and when people write me and say I have this thyroid condition or that thyroid condition and I'm on meds, then it's really a non-issue as far as I'm concerned. I've seen people on both sides of that. My ex-wife was hyperthyroid, and she was on thyroid still is, for as long as I've known her, and she's got more energy than any 10 people I know. But she's medicated, healthy, and, why would you try to wean yourself off of something that you need? So that, again, it's just, if you're being properly medicated, then what's the issue? But some people will write that to me like it's something I need to consider. But if you've got medical intervention for the problem and the doses are figured out, then it's no longer a problem. So, that should just go without saying, even with hormone replacement therapy, right? It's the same kind of idea. I got my testosterone, I'm 50 years old, I got my testosterone levels tested and they were low, so they put me on androgel or testosterone replacement, and then 3 weeks later my testosterone levels are now in the normal range. Okay, then it's no longer an issue. We don't need to talk about it anymore. That kind of thing. So very, very important there. So, okay, all right. Nikolai's using one of our variations of the tricep extension that he saw, and he loves the way it's feeling. So that's great too. Love it. A question about leg training. Hang on a second. I have to click the see more button. 20 years background in training. Legs have always been small, but upper body's too big. Too much muscle. I'm not symmetrical. What kind of training would you use? I want to lose muscle from my upper body and waist. It seems whatever training I do with upper body, it just seems to grow and get more buffed. To do nothing. Yeah, it's hard to lose muscle. The only way to lose muscle is to aerobicize the hell out of it. And in your upper body, that's going to be difficult to do. So unless you became an endurance runner, you would lose substantial amounts of upper body mass doing that if you didn't lift to support the long distance running. But of course your legs would get even skinnier. So a lot of people just have symmetry problems that they can't correct. It's just going to be that way. Now, I don't know what kind of training protocols you've been trying. I definitely have leg specific protocols that maintain upper body, because you don't want to ever lose muscle. That's never a good thing, because it sort of tells metabolism to downregulate. So you never want to lose muscle. If you have muscle, that's a good thing. You had lean tissue, but you might want to create a more symmetrical illusion of the muscle you have, and that's where program design comes in. And all that stuff's explained in my Program Design Masterclass course, programdesignmasterclass.com. That's a very, very, very in-depth course that has a gazillion programs in it that we break down, and the whys and hows and stuff. So, you never want to lose muscle, so that's not a good way of looking at it. But how can you bring the legs up would be a better way of looking at it. And, a good, solid, leg-focused program would do that for you. Not necessarily strength, but just a good, what we call strength density protocol for your legs. You can do one-time programs at my website, scottabelfitness.com. So, Paul says, wish he's heard about me before, feels like I've wasted years being uneducated or being educated by the media and the internet. And again, like Einstein said, information isn't knowledge, okay? And even knowledge isn't knowledge. Applied knowledge is knowledge. And I'm fortunate enough, I mean, I just fell in all the right places at all the right times, being mentored by one of the first superstars in bodybuilding, and then, you know, having the academic background to follow that up with, and then the experience, you know. So, you know, I always say is that wisdom is what knowledge hopes to be if it ever grows up. And I think that's, you know, that's where I got to be in life. You know, 4 decades into doing this, not a whole lot gets past me now. And when you don't wear filters and have a perception bias in this industry, you can usually see pretty easily what's going on. The problem is most experts in this industry wear rose-colored glasses, and they filter everything through being in the industry. And that prevents them from seeing a lot of things that are going on. So I like to say I'm 50 pounds of real in a 10-pound bag, and a lot of people can't deal with that. So, you know, and a thing there, Paul, is it's never a waste of time to be uneducated. I bought into a lot of stuff that didn't serve me either, believing in the strength myth and all that stuff in my early days. All I got was injured and frustrated, but guess what? It led me to becoming an expert. So there's no wasted time. You can be frustrated with what you should have known. But yeah, I mean, everything is a step in the right direction if you choose to look at it that way. So that's important as well. So how can you bring up hormone replacement therapy to clients who are weary of going that route? Just all you can do is bring it up. I mean, you know, it's not your job. Your job is to lead the horse to water. It's not your job to make the horse drink. All right, but you might want to get the horse thirsty enough. That's the big difference, right? So you can bring it up and just say, have you ever thought about hormone replacement or looked into it? You know, it's you know, we live in a day and age where we weren't meant to live this long, and we don't have to be old and decrepit. You know, maybe it's something worth looking into. And if they're against it, they're against it, right? I mean, you know, people tend to be like that. There's a lot of people who, you know, treat nutrition diet camps like religions, right? Like, ooh, I'm in the low carb camp. How dare you say that about us? You know, like, low carb is my God, and you just insulted my God. You know, you're always going to come into that with this sort of cult aspect of the subculture. But if you're trying to help someone, you just preface what you're about to say with, I'm just trying to help here, but maybe you should consider this. I mean, coaching is a relationship, and it's a relationship that should be based in trust. So if they're not going to trust that you're going to try to give them alternatives, I mean, the worst thing you can do is cater to the way someone thinks when that thinking isn't working for them, right? And I get a lot of clients who will write me every week who have food issues and things like that, and naturally I'm going to challenge their thinking. I'm not going to buy into their victim mentality and their victim mindset. I'm going to challenge that mindset. And sometimes that'll feel like a slap in the face, but it always comes with, my job's to try to help you. And the way you're thinking right now doesn't help you, it hurts you. So why not just consider this and talk to someone who knows about it? I think any open-minded person would be okay with that. There's someone who's 70 looking for more mass and fat loss. Wow, there's an ego that's out of control at age 70. At age 70, I just don't want to dance like a white man anymore. But okay, you know, if that's someone's goal, then programming, but also, you know, realistic expectations, right? So, but again, you can only put the thought in their head. You can't make them follow it up or anything like that. So, Michelle wants to know, you want your testosterone levels assessed, all right? Your GT doesn't believe in that for females. Your general practitioner doesn't believe in that for females. Well, that's silly. Your general practitioner must be old and out of the loop. Find a new one. I would go in the yellow pages or walk into a clinic. I don't know if you live in Canada or the States. It's pretty easy here to switch doctors. You just walk into any clinic. And get a referral to an endocrinologist. Go to your GP if you want to use that one and say, I would just like a referral to an endocrinologist, please. You don't even have to tell them why. It's their job. I mean, let's not forget these people serve you. You don't serve them. I think sometimes we get that upside down as well. So, Olivia liked Physique After 50. Thanks for reading it. Yes, can I remind ladies that post-menopause, that training helps enhance and energize libido. There's all kinds of things in my book, Physique After 50, that talk about things that will help restore and optimize libido, hormone replacement therapy, exercise, eating good foods, things like that. So again, there's no reason these things have to subside just because you're another year older. If they are subsiding, those might be signs of hormonal and biochemical dysregulation and downregulation that occurs naturally with age. So look into getting some help. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. So, why not have a good sex life after 50? That just makes no sense to me that, it makes no sense to me at all. So people want to, you want to settle into your rocking chair. There's people that want to do that. Great. But this forum isn't for those people. So if you're looking to, get revitalized and reinvigorated, then this is the place to be. But you're not going to find magic, secret ingredients and things like that here. So Chad says he bought the Hard Gainer solution. I've loved the workouts. Doing them. Oh, only doing them for a week. Okay. You're an IFBB pro. Will not compete for a while. Do you think this workout is appropriate for me improving? If you're 46 and lifetime drug-free, then absolutely, yeah, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing, if you're drug-free and you're over 45, then the Hard Gainer solution would make sense. Maybe not to stay on it permanently, but I think it would make sense. And you're only a week into it, so you're still in sort of like honeymoon phase of the programming. So Hard Gainer Solution now is a website as well, hardgainersolution.com. And if you look on my YouTube channel, you'll see in one of our previous Coach and Andy shows, I think it was March, when was that? Maybe March 11th or maybe no. March 4th. Anyway, we did a workout number 17 with Trevor Timmons of the Montreal Canadiens, 49 years old. Dropped by and we did workout number 17 of the Hard Gainer Solution, and that's on YouTube. You can check that out for pacing and the actual workout of the Hard Gainer Solution and see someone like Trevor, 49 years old, hanging and banging and looking great. So that's pretty good too. So what do you think, folks? Are we heading down near the end? I don't know how long I've been on here, but looks like I've been on for a while. So one of the things I want to close with and get you to consider, I'd like to, as often as I can, if I'm not pressed for time, at least give you things to think about that also affect health and well-being and balance. So I would like you to think about, and maybe if you find time or make time to write down, what gets you up in the morning. I want to think about something specific that gets you up in the morning. And then in the next column, I want you to think about something that keeps you up at night. So what keeps you up at night and what gets you up in the morning? I don't care if they're different things, same things, whatever, but write them down. You might be surprised by what you find. Now, what gets you up in the morning? What keeps you up at night? Which one are you going to be more willing to concentrate on? Because that's where you're going to find your sweet spot, okay? So I'm going to close on that, folks. I hope you got some benefit out of this Sunday breakfast with the coach. I'm feeling a little hunger pang in here, so I don't know what. I think I bought a big 1 pound Hershey's peanut butter cup, so I might have to bury my nose into that, and it won't be pretty. So with that, I will sign off. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this, and spread the word, okay? It really helps me and helps us. I appreciate all the thumbs up. Apparently Facebook monitors these thumbs and hearts and stuff like that, so you're really doing me a favor when you come on here and do those things. So I just got a final question from Dan and Michelle Kennedy, two of my faves from back east. Have I ever dropped a client, and if so, why? I've dropped many clients in the past. Yeah, I don't waste my time. That's why I have a huge upfront fee for my coaching, because if people are willing to pay the upfront fee, they're at least serious at the time of signing up. But yeah, I've dropped clients many a time. Dan, Michelle, I don't know which one I'm talking to, but yeah, if it if people, they might want to waste their time for $100 a month, but I won't let anyone waste my time for $100 a month and the $1,500 up front. So there's an old saying, we teach people how to treat us. And in the coaching relationship, that's no different. The coaching is a relationship. There's a trust factor there. If people were always consulting without other coaches, then yeah, I mean, I'm not in the negotiating business. If people want to hire me and my 4 decades of experience, yeah, I'm a little bit arrogant about that. I mean, I do my homework. I've been around for 4 decades. If people want to compare and contrast me with something they read on the internet and they think I'm going to spend an hour explaining it to them, I'm not. So yeah, but there's other reasons I've dropped clients, just a clash of personalities, and never ever let anyone disrespect me ever on a personal level. You know, that's just a no-no. I won't disrespect anybody, so I don't tolerate it in return. And sometimes it's just not a good fit. You realize after a while that, you know, they're going to want to do their own thing, or no matter what you give them, they're going to question you about something they're not doing, right? You give them a carb diet, and they're going to come back to you and ask you about a low-carb diet. You give them a low-carb diet, they're going to come back and ask you why my other client eats carbs. If you have someone like that, then they're just looking for reasons to blame you for not being successful. So there's all kinds of reasons. Those are ones that come to mind. But yeah, I've fired all kinds of clients in the past. But I must also say, Dan and Michelle, as a coach, part of my assessment protocol, my screening process is, do I even want to take this person on? So like right now, my hard line in the sand is I don't deal with anyone who uses performance-enhancing drugs to compete in physique culture. I'm done with that world. So right away, if someone writes me with that, oh, I want to do nationals and I want you to help me with my drug stack. No, sorry, I don't do that anymore. That's a hard line in the sand for me. So we got to have our sort of hard lines in the sand, and then we look through our assessment and say, is this a good fit? Yeah, I can take anybody's money, but if it's going to torment me for the next year, and I know I can't really help them, then no, it's not worth my time. I'm at a place, of course, in my career when I can afford to do that, right? I don't need someone's money that bad, even if they need my coaching. So Ange just wrote in that Hard Gainer Solution workout on my YouTube channel is March the 4th with Trevor Timmons. So if you go into my YouTube channel, the Coach and Andy show, I think it's under that playlist. You'll see the workout number 17 of the Hard Gainer Solution with Trevor Timmons of the Montreal Canadiens. And you should especially look at the end of that where Trevor talks about his lifestyle and his work and all that kind of stuff. Very, very motivating stuff. So, yeah. So I'm sorry, Dan and Michelle, you got here at the very, very end. I was just about to sign off, but I recognized the name, so didn't want you to think I wasn't going to address your question. But okay, most of you have signed off now. I see there's only like 20 or so people left. So that's this week's edition of Sunday Breakfast with the Coach. If you have questions, by all means, send them to us. Send them to me at my email address, scott@scottable.com. Check out my stuff at scottablefitness.com. Remember the Program Design Mastery course, enrollment's still open. The Cycle Diet for learning about the Cycle Diet. And, of course, we've talked about the Hard Gainer Solution several times through this. So appreciate all the thumbs up and the hearts, folks. Hope you found some value in this session. And you know you'll see me next week.